Empowering women over 50 to explore the next chapter of their lives. That's the mission of our next guest, who has a podcast called Living Ageless and Bold, focusing on topics that help mature women fearlessly embrace getting older and getting better. And we are excited to welcome podcast host and lifestyle expert Christina Days to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So excited to be here.
Yes, and you know, I'm really a big fan of what you're doing, so thank you for women in this age group. So let's talk about what inspired you to do this.
Yeah, I realized that, my friends and I'm 57, I'm almost 58, and you started hearing things about, you're kind of washed up at that point. And I'm like, no, we're not washed up. We're
just getting started.
Exactly. And I mentor students at Virginia Tech, and when they would hear my story and then what I had done in my 50s, they would send me emails like, I didn't know that was possible.
Yes.
Like they're thinking they're washed up at 21. I'm like, oh, you guys.
Oh, no, you're just young.
We're starting all over again in our 50s.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I just feel like, now is the time where I really feel that I'm becoming empowered, feeling comfortable in my own skin. And it took, a couple of decades for me to get there. So I'm with you here. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about why it's essential to address these challenges and a lot of these experiences that these women are expressing to you.
Well, they might be leaving corporate. Maybe they stayed home with their kids. I would say it's a judgment-free zone,
sure.
but we have this opportunity now. Many of us are empty nesters. Hopefully we did well enough that we now get to do what we want to do.
Yes.
But some women don't know how. Mm-hmm. They might want to start a nonprofit. They might want to start a business. I mean, I've interviewed women in their 60s who are starting businesses and foundations and learning how to do it, being inspired by other women who might be 10 or 20 years older who've done it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's such a good point too, because in our 20s and 30s and sometimes 40s, we're living for our kids and our family, and we're so focused on them that we forget what we want out of life.
Right.
And then when we get into our 50s and 60s, then we go, wait a second, it's my turn.
Exactly. And what I found from the women that I've interviewed is everything's with passion and purpose now. And they get to do what they want to do to change the world.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the topics that you cover, because it's a wide range there.
It go the gamut. So entrepreneurship, fashion, our skin and our hair is changing a lot.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I bring guests on about that. Just inspirational stories. I just interviewed a woman who lost a daughter to cystic fibrosis, and now what she's doing to help other families who can't afford medical bills. Right. So it really is the game. I've had some celebrities on.
Oh, neat.
Which has been really fun. But they're just people, and they have issues too, and they went through their 30s and 40s, and
we all have our challenges in life, and it's nice to hear other people's stories to kind of have it as a guide too, because life is tough. Yeah. And especially as we get older, it gets harder and harder sometimes. Taking care of parents and just life in itself.
Or that sandwich generation. We've got
our
parents and our kids.
Right, it's difficult. So what do you hope that your listeners take away each time when they tune into your podcast?
I say this on every podcast. If we can touch one person, just if one person who's having a bad day, contemplating something, not sure, but they get one thing from that guest, we've done our job.
Yes, I love that. We do the same thing on this show, so you're a perfect fit. I love it. And we're going to have you back from time to time to talk about a lot of these topics that, we're experiencing. Yeah. And one of those things, we've talked about this on this show, is menopause. Yes. And you are in contact with, is it the executive producer of the M Factor? Is that right?
She is, yes. And it's full circle because she was my very first guest on the podcast.
Oh, wow.
And she had just left. She was the executive producer of the 4th Hour of the Today Show, was an older mom, wanted to spend time with her son, and was experiencing a lot of menopause things at work and not understanding what was happening. And she decided to create this documentary, The M Factor, which is blowing up.
It really is blowing up. Yeah. Yes, a lot of women are tuning in and taking notice. And I love the fact that we're talking about this.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
it's okay to talk about it.
It is okay. Yeah. We need to talk about it because everybody's going through it, right?
And they say this in the documentary. Every woman, it's not like you will and I won't.
Right.
Every woman eventually is going to go through menopause.
Right.
So let's talk about it. Let's make it easier.
Yeah, so we're going to talk with Jo.
Yes.
Coming up next month. So stay tuned for that. And then how can people get more information on your podcast and what you are doing?
So ChristinaDaves.com, and the podcast is on there, or Living Ageless and Bold podcast. And we put a box in there. So if somebody has ideas or guests or any suggestions, please just put that in there and share with me, and we'll get you what you want.
I love it. And I love what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll have more from Christina coming up.